Hey, what's up, friends and folks? Today I'm going to be doing practice mode in some Geometry Dash while I go ahead and talk about my life stuff. So, strap in, I guess. So, what's been going on with me recently? Excuse me, sorry. Well, probably the most important thing that happened recently was me actually getting a job. Yeah, the job so far, oh man, there's a lot of very small details I could get into that, you know, would take forever if I wanted to really talk about everything, but the biggest thing I want to talk about is like just the general job experience and the fact that I'm like working properly, like especially with how much I've been working. So, I am now working at USPS. I'm sure you're familiar with it. It is the government supported, like funded by the government postal service for the United States, and it's funny because now that means that everybody in my family has worked a government job at some point, including me. Ain't that funny? So it's kind of cool because I, get to drive, I get to do stuff, I get to, uh, go places where other people like have restricted access. I basically get access basically wherever. And they don't really question me. They just are like, "Oh, you're USPS, just come on right in." It's kind of cool, honestly. Um, like even in the local military base, I can just, walk in. I can just literally drive up and be like, "Yep, need to go here," and they're like, "Okay, sounds good." They don't need to check me or anything. Which I mean, to be fair, I guess it's not like I'm a random person walking in. Like obviously, in order to work at USPS, you need a pretty thorough background check. Like they don't just hire anybody to work for the government. So technically, like as soon as they realize I'm USPS, that's the I can't believe I did that first try. That's the background check in their eyes. It's like, oh, you work here? Yeah, that's the background check. So, I mean, yeah, like I said, it's pretty cool. I am definitely liking it so far. That being said, boy, were the first. Okay, so first let me go through and kind of explain what I've been having to deal with at first. So when I started off, I had, not too long ago, it was like, all right, I'm going to apply for some jobs. And I applied for USPS multiple times, and only recently did I actually get accepted. And at first, I'm like, okay, cool. I got accepted, and I'm really excited about this. And, by the way, can I just say I am absolutely doing so incredibly well. Like, oh my god. Oh my god. Dude, what? How am I doing so well in this? That's crazy. And I can't even do it a second time. I'm struggling. Hold on. I got really sidetracked because I just couldn't believe how well I was doing. But at first I was like, yeah, I'll be fine. It'll take easy. Like as soon as not when I started working, but when I started doing like like when I first started off, I had to do like the background thing, the background check thing, and I gave my fingerprints and all that stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I feel like I'm basically in, like it wasn't 100% confirmed. I wasn't officially working at that point in time, but it was like pretty. I was pretty confident. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get hired, like for sure. Like there's no doubt. But nothing was 100% sure at that point. But then they called me and they said, all right, you got to do your I don't remember how to do this part. It's been too long. I don't remember. They were like, you got to come in and do the defensive driver. No. They wanted me to do the like the reading. I don't know what it's called, but basically I had to read a bunch of stuff about the job. And I was like, okay, yeah, whatever, I'll do it. But the thing is it was a lot of reading. It was like 4 hours of reading and stuff. It was like, oh my god. But whatever. I did end up reading everything, and even though it was a little bit like I gotta go down. Okay. Even though it was a little bit like tedious, I did eventually get to everything, and it wasn't like the end of the world or anything like that. But man, it was a lot of reading. It was a lot of boring stuff. I tried to write down as many like facts as possible, and I even brought down my notebook on my shadow day. I went the wrong way. But I left my book there by accident, and now it's just gone forever, which is sad because all of my notes were in there. But it is what it is. But so yeah, that's what I did at first, and then I did then I did the defensive driving course. So the defensive driving course, I wasn't driving, but it was teaching you like these are the kind of things you need to do while you're driving. And I'm like, okay, cool. It was basically like, don't crash. Be careful when you're driving in the snow and stuff like that. I'm like, okay. So that was like step one, basically. Step two was the vehicle qualification. So basically, I had to learn how to drive the trucks. So they gave me an LLV and they gave me the Metris. So the LLV is like the old ones. They're like the old trucks from like 1983 or something like that. Like they're really old. And then they have the Metris, which are like based off of the Mercedes-Benz, and they're like newer vans. And to be honest, I definitely prefer driving the LLVs. Like the turning is more smooth. They don't accelerate as fast though, which is kind of the annoying part. They take really long to accelerate. But yeah, those things are a bit funky. Like whenever you try and turn them on, they don't always turn on, and they are very easy to stall. Like they stall very easily, which obviously can be quite annoying. But it just kind of takes some getting used to for driving that. But man, stepping into that vehicle for the first time for my vehicle qualification, it was really weird. It was like, I felt like I've never driven a vehicle before. Like that's how different of an experience it was at first. I'm just like, oh God, I don't know how to turn the steering wheel. I don't know how to mess with and let me also just say that the sensitivity on the like gas pedals and all that stuff, it was very different than what I was used to. Because I'm used to my own car and maybe my mom's car, but I didn't really drive any other cars other than that. So getting used to any other car's sensitivity was like a bit of a challenge. But I got to it eventually, and once I learned how to like utilize my mirrors, like I had a pretty good instructor. I'm not gonna lie, my instructor was really good. Like he told me how to use the mirrors. He told me how to make turns. He showed me how to drive backwards, which was a huge bonus because. Not really knowing how to drive backwards, that was obviously a challenge at first. But eventually I got like really good at it to the point where like I was kind of going through the course like easily. Like I was like, yeah, I can do this. And then we drove on the street a little bit and I learned how to drive up to the mailbox and not hit the mailboxes and stuff. Because on the course, like it's not that difficult, but like when you're actually out there driving, it's a little bit more challenging to not hit mailboxes and stuff. But I did it and I succeeded, kind of like first try. But then after that, they gave me the Metris, and we didn't do anywhere near as much training with the Metris. I did not feel comfortable driving the Metris at all. But they're like, yeah, no, you are certified to drive the Metris, and I'm like, oh, that's concerning because I don't feel comfortable enough to drive the Metris at all. But whatever, I'll take it. I mean, to be fair, it's not like I didn't do any training. Like, I still did the training, I still did the course, and it was relatively simple. Like, I didn't really struggle that much, but it was definitely still a bit of a challenge. Like, I definitely wish that I got more practice with the Metris before I, were certified with it. And like I said, I did the course without crashing, but I've never driven the Metris. I never drove the Metris on the street. Like, I only ever drove the Metris in the course. And we'll get to how that's relevant later, or I'll talk about that later. But, so, that was the vehicle qualifications. Then we have the Academy. And the Academy was kind of interesting because, like, the Academy was, like, basically just talking about, like, what kind of expectations you have of the job. They showed me how to use the scanner, which was quite useful. Not that I really remembered everything. It was hard. There was a lot of stuff going on in the Academy. I'm going to be honest. The vast majority of the time in the Academy was just our instructor talking about, like, his personal experience. And I'm like, I was shocked with how much time he spent talking about it. I'm like, are we sure we're not going to, like, run out of time with actually learning useful stuff? Not to say that what he was saying is useless, but I'm just like, are we really not going to talk about, like, what is, like, expected in the job and stuff like that? Like, you're talking a whole lot about stuff that isn't particularly relevant. Like, he kind of, like, made it scary in a way. Like, it was like, oh yeah, there's plenty of instances of people, like, getting robbed and killed, and I'm just like, okay, I don't know, that's kind of weird of you to tell me. And he told me, like, he's not telling this to scare you, he's just letting us know. And I'm like, well, you failed, because you're definitely scaring me a little bit. Not that I, like, was gonna, like, not take the job or anything like that. He said that it's pretty rare, but it's still definitely one of those things of, like, that's concerning that it's so common. But whatever, it is what it is. I knew that, like, with where we lived and all that stuff, that it wasn't gonna be that concerning. He said, we just gotta stay away from particular areas because, you know, they can be dangerous. And also, if there's somebody who says, like, hey, we don't want you coming this way, you just agree and say, all right, good, we're not going that way. Very crazy. But, you know, also he told us, like, how to deal with, like, customers and stuff like that, because, you know, you're gonna find some crazy people. And of course, this isn't the first time I've had to deal with, like, customers and stuff, right? Like, I worked UES, I worked at Subway, so it's not like it's my first job ever, and I don't think it was anybody's first job ever, but it might have been some people's first job where they are, like, talking to people and stuff like that, because there are a handful of jobs you can get nowadays where you don't really need to interact with people. I took the wrong jump. But, you know, of course, that wasn't really a concern for me. Because I knew, I was like, yeah, I can deal with people and stuff like that, right? And to be honest, a vast majority of the people I've interacted with were very, like, positive. Like, nobody was really ever giving me shit specifically. It might have also just been because I was new. Like, I would tell people, like, you know, this is my first day or my second day or my third day working. I'm still trying to figure things out, so I apologize. And people were fairly, like, understanding of that. But, you know, I'll get to the actual job later. But let me tell you, though. So, we started off, after the academy, it's like, okay, you're going to do your shadow day. Okay, this is like my first actual day. I mean, it's like, do you consider your shadow day to be a first day? I mean, I'm out there on the field, I'm delivering packages. I guess you could call it my first day, but it wasn't really my first day. But anyways, so what we start off with is my shadow day. Okay, we have the shadow day, and the way the shadow day works is, they were like, all right, you've never driven the vehicle before, you don't really know what you're doing, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to have you go with one of our, you know, more experienced workers, and you're just going to tag along with him, and you can kind of get, like, the general vibe experience. He can show you how we're supposed to deliver packages and all that stuff, and I'm like, okay, cool. So I tag along with him. His name is Emmanuel. A really cool dude. And at first, I'm going to be honest, like, it was definitely, like, a thing I had to get used to, but, like, I was getting really worn out, and I think it's because I was doing too much running, and I learned how to not run to deliver packages, and now it's, like, not really a problem. But the problem I had is, whenever I was trying to deliver packages, I was sprinting. And partially it's because of the first supervisor I had, which we'll get to him in a bit. But, like I said, I was doing way too much running on my first day, and I got exhausted. And he was like, and the guy I was working with was like, yeah. Like, he was like, all right, are you ready? Like, we were a couple of hours in, and like, he was like, all right, you ready to deliver more? And I'm like, dude, I'm about to die. I'm about to pass out. Like, I'm way too exhausted. And I was sitting there, like, driving in the car, and I'm thinking, like, I don't think I can do this job. This is, like, way too difficult for me. Like, this is really stressful, very, very high anxiety and all that stuff. But then, like, after I started doing the second half, like, after I started doing the rural route, and after I learned to not be running with the packages, I realized, okay, this is actually not that bad. Like, this honestly isn't that bad. I just have to know what I'm doing a little bit more. I have to be more consciously aware of the way that I want to go about doing things. And honestly, when I think about it like that, it's really not that bad. But that was the shadow day, and the shadow day is just one part of the story. But what really was like, holy cannoli, was my first actual day working, which was a week later. So normally they were like, all right, you're working Sundays, okay? But I did that, whoops, press the Windows button instead of Z. Hopefully my recording is still going. Excuse me. Yep, still going, 14 minutes. I keep pressing the wrong button. Oh, I turned off checkpoints, that's why. My first actual day was the worst possible first day you could probably ever have. So it started off, problem number one. I show up, and my supervisor says, all right, we got a lot of packages. And at first, I'm looking around, and I don't see any packages. So I'm just like, I mean, I see a couple, but I'm just like, so where are the packages? And what is supposed to happen is the clerks are meant to come in, and they're meant to scan the packages and sort them into the lots. Of course, I didn't know this at the time, because I didn't really have any experience. But what's supposed to happen, I don't like this, redo. What's supposed to happen is the clerks are meant to sort the packages into the different lots. Or into the different routes or lots, however you would want to word it. Technically, routes and lots are different, but whatever. For the purposes of what I'm saying, I'm going to say lots. So, because we have like different routes, like we have like C49 or C47 or whatever and stuff like that, right? But then we have our different lots like X1, X2, X3, X4, X5, X6, X7. And I distinctly remember the way that the routes were that day. So what happened was, we had a bunch of different packages, like way too many to be on a reasonable degree. And what our supervisor said was, you're going to have to basically make up 5-ish hours of work that the clerks didn't do, because the clerks just basically didn't do anything. They didn't sort out any of the packages. We had a couple of clerks actually come in from a different station or a different office, because again, none of the clerks showed up. So yeah, this is ridiculous at this point, right? So not only do we have to sort all of the packages into all of the different lots, but then later we would have to, and again, this is the first time doing this, by the way, because I didn't do this on my well, I didn't do this ever. I still haven't done it since, sort the packages into the lots. At least in the way that we had to do it on that specific day. We didn't have to do it like that way. Okay, so now you can start to see where the problems lie. Again, we have to basically do 5 hours worth of work in, negative hours. Like, this is ridiculous, the expectations. So not only that, we also had to sort all of the packages ourselves into our own individual groups so that we could label them and scan them and label them so that we would actually know where to go. Because otherwise, if they're not in static, we would have to manually type in all the address. There's some terms I'm throwing in here that you might not understand, but basically the point I'm trying to get at is the machine that we use to, like, the scanner that we use to tell us where to go, they only work if you scan them in a specific way. Like, first you have to, I had to jump there, I'm stupid. First you have to scan them into the system to begin with so that the computer knows that the packages are there to begin with. Then you have to scan them, well, you don't have to, but what we do as ARCs is we scan them into a system called static, dynamic, whatever. It's under dynamic delivery, but we call static, and sometimes it's like run 21 static or whatever, right? So the complicated part here is that, like, and then we have to, like, write down, like, what number we see. Like, if we see a number on the thing, it'll say, like, number 21, which, by the way, another rant is that the big number that you see and the number that the voice tells you isn't the number you're supposed to write down. So it'll be like package 17, group 1, or something like that, right? It's hard to remember off the top of my head, but you're not, and it'll show that on the screen, but those aren't the numbers you're supposed to write down. You're supposed to write down the stop number, which is the black number, assuming you actually, like, go down on the thing and whatever, right? So this is the complicated part. I didn't know that at first, so that's already step 1, which is a problem. So a bunch of different packages, I wrote down the wrong number on it. So already I'm just like, oh god. So I wrote down, there was like 30 or 40 packages that I miswrote the wrong thing, which is already enough of a problem on its own. Okay, then I realized my mistake and I have to try and make up for it. But again, there are so many packages. I wish I could, like, get the exact number, but I don't have the exact number. But it was probably, like, if I had to guess, 3,000 packages. And we were down a couple of people as well. So, like, if I had to make a guess, it was like we had to do the work that was meant to be for like 30 people, and we had like 8 people. And Not only that, but we were behind schedule as well, so it was absolutely very tumultuous. So we're already like 11 hours in at this point, right? So it's already dark, because I showed up at 10, and it was like 9 a.m. by the time I loaded up my truck. Which, by the way, let me also mention, nobody taught me how to load my truck. I didn't know the best method. What I did is I just loaded it. I loaded what I had back to front, and what I was going to do is I was going to try and do the routes the best I can. But nobody showed me how to load my truck, and in fact, nobody would show me for a really long time how to load my truck. So you can already start to see where some of the cracks are showing. But for the very first day, what happened was I loaded it up, and it was kind of a bit of a mess, and I didn't really know where my packages were. And my mindset was, the thing is, my supervisor was like, we gotta go, you gotta hurry up, you gotta go, we're so far behind schedule. And we were very far behind schedule, through no fault of our own. So I try and go and deliver the packages to the best of my ability, but I just can't do it. I deliver some packages, and at some point I just give up. It's really dark, and this is my first time driving. Okay, so let me try and explain this concept to you, right? This is my first time driving the LLV unsupervised, right? This is my first time driving in dark. This is my first time driving in this area or in this route. It's my first time delivering packages by myself, and it's my first time loading up the truck by myself, right? So somebody didn't load it up for me. I had to load it myself. So I was doing a lot of things for my first time, and it was a very anxiety-riddled, very anxious day. And this was my first official day that wasn't me being a shadow. So I just give up at some point because I say, I can't do this. I have too much anxiety. I'm having a panic attack. I just literally have a mental breakdown in my own truck, and I just drive back to the office, and I say, I'm sorry, I can't do it. It's too dark. I'm too tired. Again, I expected it to maybe be like an 8-hour workday or something like that, right? 8 hours, maybe 9 or 10 hours. But at this point, this was already like 12 or so hours, and I was just too tired. And not only was I just too tired, I was way too filled with anxiety, and I just said, I can't do it. I can't do this. Now, obviously, with the experience I have now, with the knowledge and experience I have now, I probably could have done it. You know what I mean? Like, I've done the routes a couple of times. I've done a lot of different routes a bunch of different times. I'm less riddled by anxiety with a lot of packages and stuff like that. Like, I would have been a struggle, and I might have not done all of it, but I would have done more. And let me also clarify, too, not a single person finished their route, so I wasn't alone in this. It's not like it was a particular struggle with me. But the supervisor I had was really not a nice person. And I'm not going to just, like, spend too much time talking about how terrible the supervisor was, which I could go on and on about all the things that he did wrong to be a supervisor, not showing me how to do stuff, criticizing me, and pushing me too hard beyond my limits. Very, 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 just not good. Not an ideal situation for me or for anybody. And he says it as in, like, you know, I'm hard on you because I have to be hard on you because you won't push yourself. And it's like, yeah, I'm not pushing myself, because if I push myself too early, too hard, too fast, then I'm just gonna quit. You know what I mean? Like, I signed up to be an ARC. And then, okay, oh, here's another thing too. After all of this happened, you know what he says? He says, all right, show up tomorrow at 8 a.m. And I'm tired, I am weak, and I even tell my mom, I don't think I can do it. But he's telling me I gotta show up, but I don't think I can do it. I'm just too tired, I'm too weak, I'm mentally broken, I don't know. And then my mom says, like, yeah, maybe you gotta, resign. Here's a thing for your resignation paper. Maybe this is it. Maybe this is the end for you. You just, can't do it or whatever. Actually, that's not true. At first she says, you maybe just try and push yourself. And I'm like, okay, I'll try. My dad actually is the one who said, like, yeah, I mean, if you do what you gotta do, kind of thing, right? But I did push myself, and I ended up working, and it was also pretty rough. And like I said, that supervisor was really bad. And he says, all right, show up again tomorrow at 7:30. And I'm just like, oh my God. And I don't. I at some point I just tell him, like at the day of, basically, because I said, yeah, you know what, sure, I'll do it on the day of. But when I woke up in the morning and I was really sore, and I realized, like, if I work today, because of how sore I am, if I work today, I am going to get an injury. I know that I'm too sore. I know that I'm too weak right now. I know that I'm not in shape right now at this point in time. And I know that if I work, I'm going to, like, tear a muscle or something. Like, I will actually injure myself if I work this day. So I just said, I called in and I said, nope, I'm not working that day. I'm not. It's not happening. I am not working that day. And I even was gonna not work the next day. And what I did is I put my phone on do not disturb, or whatever. Not do not disturb. There's another term for it. Airplane mode. I put my phone on airplane mode, and at 2 p.m. the next day, as soon as I get it, I get a call, and he's like, "Where are you?" And I'm like, I'm still at home. I was trying to deal with Spectrum service, wasn't doing it." And he's like, "Why didn't you call?" It's like, "I just said the Spectrum service was out. I couldn't call. There was nothing I could do." He's like, "Well, we need you." And so I show up. But thankfully that day I didn't, work a whole day, because I took the first couple hours off. Why am I failing this part? Hello? This is like okay, we're gonna redo that. Ridiculous. I don't know how I failed that so many times that early on. So yeah, but anyways, as I'm dealing with this supervisor specifically for like the first week or so, I'm just like, yeah, this is not the job for me. This guy is pushing me way too hard and stuff like that. But then what gave me hope is he said he's only going to be, he doesn't actually work here. He's just helping out. His actual, like, business is somewhere else at a different place. And that gave me a hope. I'm like, oh my God, that means if I get a different supervisor, maybe I'll actually have a chance of actually getting this job. So that really gave me hope. So that helped me push through. Otherwise, I probably would have quit if I known that he was going to continue to be my supervisor. But that gave me the hope to actually push through. So, and I did, and I got a new supervisor, and I got another new supervisor, which I'll get into later. And both of these other supervisors are much, much nicer. They're helpful. They're helping me out. They're keeping me on track. If there's questions, I can ask them. If they can show me the ropes and show me what to do and stuff like that. Like, these are proper supervisors that actually know what they're doing, and they don't have ridiculously stupid expectations. Like, again, with some of this, he was like, yeah, I know that you're new to this, but go ahead and deliver 90 packages, which are like packages, not just spurs, but like, go ahead and deliver 90 or so packages in 2 hours. And I'm just like, I can't do that. That's too little time. I'm not familiar enough with what I'm doing. I'm not as confident as a driver. Like, the way he expected me to do it is he wanted me to basically speed down the road and run with the packages. Like, they're just ridiculous. And I also spent a lot of time looking for the addresses. And again, I really did try my best, but I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing. It's my third day here, dude. This is my third day here. I still haven't even really figured out, like, that second day that I worked was my second time ever driving the Metris. Oh, and speaking of which, when it comes to the Metris, okay, all right, I'm just gonna abandon that checkpoint. Yeah, that was a bad checkpoint. That's the problem. Speaking of which, when it came to the Metris, at first, I felt really unconfident driving the Metris, to the point where when I realized what packages I had and they gave me the keys for a Metris, I loaded part of it up to the Metris, but then I started to drive and I'm just like, oh my God, I am terrible at driving with the Metris. And I just went back home and I got my own truck, and I never told anybody about this. and I went back and got my mom's SUV, and I just delivered a bunch of packages from that instead. Not a lot, but just a bunch, just because I felt very uncomfortable driving the Metros. But then I realized, yeah, there's no way that I'm going to be able to deliver all these packages in my mom's SUV. There just isn't enough space. It's not designed for it. So eventually I suck it up and I get into the Metros and I hop in and I realize, wait, this is actually not too bad. I regret wasting like an hour and a half trying to do this because, you know, in reality, I very easily could have just drove the Metros, and I realized at some point it's like I gotta get used to it eventually, right? I might as well get used to it now. So that's what I did. And I started driving the Metros. Like I said, it's like the Mercedes kind of thing, and the Mercedes van. Like it's not a like a AMG or anything like that. It's a van, okay? So I'll get your hopes up here. But like I said, eventually I started like kind of getting used to it, and I in a way I prefer it, but in a way I don't. I don't know. But like I said, with the new supervisors, it's a lot better for me going on, and I really appreciate them. And even I had my supervisor show me how to do some things that I didn't know how to do. Like I said, going back to it, I didn't really know how to load my truck, and my supervisor went out of her way and kind of like showed me how to do it and helped me do it as well. Like she literally like put in the manual effort. Like she was sweating, you know what I mean? Like she went in and put the effort and actually properly showed me how to do it, and also helped me load it herself. And I really appreciate that. That was a terrible checkpoint. So yeah, like I said, now things are really looking up for me, but it's really time consuming, this job. Like it's like I'm sometimes working 13-hour days, you know what I mean? I'm getting better. 38 checkpoints. I'm sometimes I'm not doing that. I'm sometimes working 13-hour days, you know what I mean? And 13-hour days can be grueling. And again, like when I have 13-hour work days and it takes me about, a half hour to drive to work, I don't really have a lot of time to do anything other than work and sleep. To the point where, like, when I have days off like today, it feels really weird. Like it feels like a part of my day is missing because I'm just so used to working not every single day, but like I work so often now and I work for so long that it just feels weird. But like I said, maybe I'll get used to it over time. Maybe it'll become like not that weird, but I don't know. As of right now, it's weird not working. But, I'm not complaining. Got a couple days off, it is what it is. I have made some driving errors. I'm not happy about it. I made some mistakes. One day I was hydroplaning and it was like really slick and really rainy, and this was my first time driving in the rain. And when I went to make a turn, because I wanted to make a left turn onto the street, and I went to make the turn, and I was slamming on the brakes, which you're not supposed to do when you're hydroplaning, but me panicking, dealing with this situation for the first time, I slammed on the brakes and turned and jerked my wheel, and of course that didn't help. That just made it so that I was even further hydroplaning, and I crash is a bad word, but I fell into the mud and my car got stuck. It was a little bit of a ditch. Like someone was like, it looked like you were in a ditch. I was like, it wasn't really in a ditch, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't like I could have gotten out if it wasn't mud. It was literally just the fact that it was mud that I couldn't get out. But I did have to call and get towed out, and that was really embarrassing, and I wasn't really happy about that. And that was followed by the next day where I wasn't really paying attention, and I accidentally crashed into a blocker thing, like the things that you have to like ballers, I guess, like the things where like you have to like they stop the car and you have to like wait and do something like that. And okay, this is an annoying checkpoint. But I hit that because I wasn't really paying attention, and again I cracked and destroyed a mirror, and again really not happy about that. very upset at myself that I allowed that to happen. But at the same time, and I thought, like, I seriously said, like, to my supervisor, like, oh my god, I'm gonna get fired. And she's like, you're not gonna get fired. Like, it's just a little bit of property damage. Like, when I first, like, I, like, started off the call with, like, oh my god, I'm gonna get fired. I can't believe this is actually happening. And then I told her, like, I hit a thing. And she's like, you gotta calm down. Just calm down. It's okay. You're not gonna get fired. You just caused a little bit of property damage. Like, obviously it's not ideal, it's not happening, but just make your report and then we'll go from there. Just, you know, it's not illegal to get into a driving accident. Like fender benders and stuff like that happen all the time. Like, people, like my mom drove into a ditch by accident one time. Like, it happens, you know. And you're new to the job as well. Like, you're still figuring out. You're working like late hours. Like, at that point, I was 13 hours into my job and I was working. And what also really threw me off too, which definitely didn't help matters, is the fact that I drove to that location earlier in the day, like the location I'm referring to. I drove to that location earlier in the day and the bollards were up. So I just assumed, oh, I guess they're just up, I guess. I don't know. I didn't really think anything of it. Maybe they're just for show. Maybe they only, like, are there for certain days or something like that, right? But obviously, when my incident did happen, they were up. Or they were not up. Well, they were up at the time because there was a car in front of me and it was driving through it. And but because the car was driving through it, I just assumed, oh, I guess they're up again. You know what I mean? I didn't think anything of it. But as I started driving, it started coming down on my car, and I was like, oh no, it's coming down. And so I, you know, realizing that it's going to hit my car, I tried to drive through it, because I figured, like, if I stop, it's definitely going to hit me. But if I drive through it, then maybe it won't hit me if I'm fast enough. Because, like I said, I definitely didn't have enough time to reverse or anything. Like, it was on top of me at that point. There was nothing I could do to avoid it hitting me if I didn't drive forward. But of course, driving forward, I wasn't fast enough, and it did hit the top of my car, and I broke the mirror. Again, really not happy about it. But also, I definitely over-exaggerated in being like, you know, I'm gonna get legal repercussions. Like, at most, you know, I might have to deal with some of the property damage, which, again, not happy about it, not proud of it, but it's not like I hit a person. It's not like the end of the world. Like, you know, there's some people that crash their car into a tree and the vehicle is totally non-functioning and they still work there. And I'm just like, oh, yeah, I mean, you know, it's just a little bit of damage. Like, again, I didn't even totally crash the car. In terms of, like, the damage to the car, it was literally just a singular window. Like, it's not the end of the world. But, it is what it is. Not happy about it, but, you know, it is what it is. Anyways, yeah, that's my working experience so far. It's really weird working. It's kind of a bit of a nice change of pace. It's nice to go outside, like, actually touching grass, like, every day. Because I assure you, I was not touching grass every day before that. Like, it's not like I would never go outside. But I don't know. It was I spent a lot of time inside. I didn't ever have a lot of incentive to go outside most days, and, you know, it was all right. But I don't know. I like the job, and I like working, and I like actually doing some physical activity and stuff. And again, it's a job that I do properly enjoy. I don't really hate any part of it in particular. If there was a part I liked the least, it would probably be loading up my truck, but it depends on how much packages I have. Like, even then, that might not be that big of a deal if I don't have that many packages. So, you know, it is what it is. I am hoping to keep the job for the, you know, foreseeable future. People are asking me, like, hey, you want to upgrade to be an ARC, or to be a CCA, because I'm just an ARC right now. And I'm like, that means I have to deal with mail? Nah, I don't want to do that. I don't want to deal with mail. So right now I'm just doing packages, which I'm perfectly fine with. I like packages. Dealing with mail is a lot of extra complicated layers and stuff like that. Like, and the big thing is that, like, as an ARC who's doing packages, I have the scanner and it'll show me the address. Like, in the scanner is a GPS that'll tell me all of the addresses and stuff like that. But I don't get that luxury of being a CCA. I have to, like, manually look for the houses or go on my phone and look it up on the GPS. So as you can see, complications arise from having to do that. Now, granted, if you're CCA, there's a higher chance that it's just gonna be like down the road. Like you're gonna have mail for like every house basically. So like you can more easily just go down the road and it's like there's the next house, there's the next house, there's the next house. And cluster boxes are also not that big of a deal. Like if you have a cluster box, like I did deliver mail once. They trained me on how to deliver mail kind of. And what I did is I delivered mail into a cluster box. And that was also not that big a deal. Like if they were like, hey, can you deliver mail to this cluster box? Easy peasy. Give me the arrow key. I'll deliver the mail, no problem. Really not that big a deal at all. But yeah, I'm not like really big on mail, and I hope to not do that a bunch. But I don't mind if I have to do some cluster boxes, or if I have like a line of like a row of houses all back to back to back and stuff like that. That would be fine for me. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this little chat talking about work and stuff like that. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope you peace out. Take care. Bye bye.